The following podcast contains alcohol-enhanced conversations about alcohol, as well as a potential for discussions about topics of dubious, disturbing, possibly offensive, but usually hilarious interest. The opinions stated herein are solely of the persons making them, and any endorsement of these opinions by any other party is not implied. Foul language is likely, but intolerant viewpoints are not. Listener intoxication is advised. Hello and welcome to episode 84 of the Whiskey Tangent Podcast. I'm Scott.
I'm Ed.
And for our fifth numbered capital E episode born out of our trip to Kentucky, number 79 about the trip itself, 80 about the cocktails we tried, 81 about Willet, and 83 about Peerless, today we'll be doing what might be our most expensive episode ever. A vertical tasting of as many Little Book expressions as we could get our hands on, which of course is the brainchild of Jim Beam, master distiller Freddie No. And joining us today on this epic sampling session of Little Books will be, in fact, Little Book himself, Freddie No. Yes, in the whiskey coup of all whiskey coups, we will be talking to Freddie and getting the full story behind these whiskeys and the insights into what it's like being the master distiller of one of the most famous whiskey producers on the planet. But before we get to all that, Ed's going to list for us the luscious litany of Little Book liquids we'll be lacerating our livers with tonight.
Right, so we have 5 total whiskeys that we're going to enjoy. We're missing 4 out of the series, which is understandable.
Hard to get.
We're going to talk about Chapter 1, the Easy.
Yeah.
Chapter 2, which we have had.
Yes.
We just don't have any here. No Simple Task. We've been accumulating these over the years in anticipation of this episode. It's been a dream episode of mine for 3 years to get Freddie on and talk about it. And Love Affair started with Chapter 3, The Road Home. So we're going to taste what's left of Chapter 3, because we've been holding on to some.
Yeah.
We're going to taste Chapter 4, Lessons Honored. We'll take a break. We'll come back for Part 2, and we'll taste Chapter 5, The Invitation, Chapter 6, To the Finish. We'll talk about Chapter 7, The Introspect, and Chapter 8, The Path Not Taken. And then we'll taste the Infinite Edition 1, which we're very excited about.
Yes.
After that, we are going to interview Freddie, and we'll drop that interview in at the end of the episode with his thoughts, and he'll take us through everything about Little Book that we can't just find on Google. Right?
Inside insight into the entire process. And we're really excited about it, too.
And Scott's going to talk about the process right now, I think, a little bit.
So I'm going to give a quick history on the Little Book series itself, and then Ed will read all the descriptions, not at once, but one at a time.
Yes.
And I'll give the stats and the tasting notes until we get to the ones we're actually tasting, and then, of course, we'll taste them.
Right.
So, to begin, this is from their website. When 8th generation Beam master distiller Freddie No set out to make his own whiskey, he had only one goal in mind: to make his family proud. So he created his own line of whiskey by blending together different spirits to produce something completely new. Freddie doesn't rest until each batch is perfect, because when you have over 220 years of Jim Beam tradition on your shoulders, you don't take your job lightly. And because he's the great-great-grandson of the distillery's namesake, it's not hard to figure out where Freddie gets his sense for making whiskey. And while no one put any pressure on him to join the family business, over time one thing became clear: the distillery is where he belongs. But the Beam legacy isn't just passed down like some family heirloom. You've got to earn it, just like everyone else. So that's what Freddie did, learning the business from the bottom up, working every job the Claremont Distillery had to offer. And it was during this time that he discovered that he had a passion for experimentation, just like his granddad, Booker. And so, drawn in by the limitless palette of tastes and flavors that can be created by blending differently aged spirits, Freddie got to work. It was a labor of love, and when he was finished, he knew that he had the foundation for something special. His first contribution to the family legacy, Little Book, referencing the nickname given to him because of how similar he is to his granddad.
Yes, and what I liked about the whole Little Book line was it was a time when whiskey was going through dynamic change, and the expansion of specialty whiskeys, craft whiskeys, was started by Booker No himself with the birth of the Knob Creek line, of the Basil Hayden line.
Yeah, the small batch collection.
Bringing out Bakers and eventually Bookers. And then they kind of like didn't have anything new come out for a while.
Yeah.
And then you start seeing expansions on their brand. Knob Creek would go to a 10-year, and then it was a 12-year, and then it's a 15-year.
Then they did the rye. Yeah.
Right, an 18-year. Yeah. And then you see all the myriad of Basil Hayden's that have come out, right? I mean, we could spend multiple episodes talking about just what Basil Hayden's been putting out.
Yeah.
And so all that being said, what they were kind of lacking was like the unique one-offs, you know? And that's what kind of Little Book fulfilled, you know? Looking at the first one. Little Book Chapter 1, nicknamed The Easy, started when Freddie was working in Jim Beam's Global Innovation Center learning about blending. He looked at the different types of whiskeys available and saw that they had individual corn, rye, and malt barrels and wondered, if you blend those together to exact proportions of a bourbon mash bill, will they taste like bourbon? And so we tried it, and it actually didn't taste like bourbon at all. The corn whiskey overpowered everything else, and then he had the idea to blend in a fourth component, some actual 4-year-old bourbon, which did what those others could not, ensuring that all of the ingredients complement each other without a single piece overpowering the final taste.
The proof was 122.6. And the mash bills are usually not disclosed on the bottles. Chapter 3 is an exception because we know what went in there. However, others have speculated, and I'll try as we go along to impart those speculations. So this was a mix of 4 different whiskeys, as it was said. The 4-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon. That is probably the Knob Creek Booker's Baker's mash bill. 77 corn, 13 rye, 10 malted barley. A 6-year Kentucky Straight Malt whiskey.
Wow.
And they didn't have a malt whiskey per se until Claremont Steep came out a couple years ago. That's 100% malted barley.
So it could have been one of their like Distiller Select or experimental ones.
Yeah, a 6-year Kentucky Straight High Rye. This is speculated to be Booker's Rye, which is a product that came out. 70 rye, 20 corn, 10 malted barley. That's a speculation too.
Or he could have procured it from somewhere.
Well, it's all theirs, right?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And 13-year Kentucky Straight Corn Whiskey, which to my mind, I don't know if they even have a corn whiskey, but apparently they have barrels of it in their warehouses. The Whiskey Advocate score is 91 for this, and the notes are caramel, vanilla, toasted nuts, rye spice, corn grain, and smoky wood. At the time this was released in 2017, it was $100. And on the secondary now, it goes for like an average of $712.
$712?
Yes.
All right. Considering how rare and old it is, I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah.
The next one that we did try, and I'm sorry we never tried that one, but it kind of went by us before we knew it was out and happening. We kind of missed what was going on. And we didn't have a podcast then.
We didn't.
Yeah. So.
And we were not in the business of spending $100 for a whiskey at the time. We were very new, right? And we were spending like $30 to $40, and even a $50 expression was like, oh my God, we spent $50 on a whiskey.
Well, we were drinking Knob Creek and Basil Hayden and Woodford Reserve and things like that. Yeah. A big treat for us was to grab one bottle of Booker's every year, you know what I mean? And that was like, we're getting a Booker's.
It was gifted to us for Christmas or something. Yeah.
Right. Then Little Book Chapter 2 came out.
Yeah.
No Simple Task. This began when Freddie visited Beam's Canadian distilleries in early 2017, where he was able to taste some great Canadian whiskey straight out of the barrel. The rules for making whiskey in Kentucky don't apply in Canada, and Freddie was really drawn to the fruit and floral notes that they can achieve in their whiskey. When he returned home, he was excited about the idea of bringing the best of both worlds together and started experimenting with different Canadian ryes in search of something that would round out the Kentucky rye that he wanted to be the base of the blend. In the end, he created a balanced and refined whiskey with a nice, lingering finish that's full of flavor. And I remember that being a very complex and delicious whiskey.
Yeah, and we actually tried it on the podcast. It was in our Whiskey Madness 2020 Invitational in the summer of that year.
Yes.
And the proof of that is 118.8. It's 8-year Kentucky Straight Rye whiskey, possibly Jim Beam rye, which is 51% rye, 39% corn, 10% malted barley, maybe. 13-year Canadian rye whiskey from, we think, Alberta Distillers.
Right.
They do own them. And a 40-year Canadian rye.
Right.
Also from Alberta, probably.
Right.
The Whiskey Advocate score is 93. The notes are caramel, soft spice, dried fruit, seasoned oak, vanilla, and cinnamon. The price in 2018 was $100, and now on the secondary, you can get it for an average of $491.
And that was very good. And I'm glad that we got to experience that and actually document it on the podcast. But notice it was 3 years after it came out.
Yes.
So we were lucky to even find that bottle. But this is when they would lay on the shelves a little bit longer. See, this is only the second release.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, 7 and 8, I cannot find. I couldn't. I went to another place. They had a 7 and 8. I said, all right, I'll be back in and get it. And then someone came in and bought all of them.
Yeah.
2 days before I got there. I was so weird. And then I visited 10 other places. I couldn't find it. Yeah. So, and I don't know if we needed to drink 7 or 8 whiskeys today. You know what I mean?
That's true too. We might get a little extra.
It might be a blessing that we only have the 5 to taste. Yeah. Because they're all pretty high proof, which is nice.
Yeah, it's true.
So, Little Book, Chapter 3.
Right, the next one.
Which I've often said is my favorite whiskey I've ever had.
And we actually have some to taste of this.
Yes, and we will taste it in a second.
Yep.
This is the road home, pays tribute to Freddie's grandfather, Fred Booker No, and references a road that Freddie travels to and from work on a regular basis, the same road his grandfather traveled when he used to work at the distillery. After having a couple of chapters under his belt, Freddie thought it would be a great time to blend some of the liquids that Booker No gave to the whiskey industry, namely the 4 bourbons in the original small batch lineup. Basil Hayden, Knob Creek, Booker's, and Baker's. However, he added a twist because all 4 were blended and bottled at barrel strength. There's a little pang that I have that the Little Book Chapter 3 could be a yearly release.
And we said that, I think, on the podcast because we did this too.
I think we said that to Freddie when I saw him in Kentucky.
We actually did this before we did the Little Book 2. We did this in February of 2020, right before the pandemic struck. And man, did we love it.
Well, I loved it. And
it's saying exactly what you said. Like, this should be an annual release because it's so good.
Or just make this one of the 4 Bookers that comes out, you know?
But since we haven't tasted this in a long time, we're going to taste it again. Finishing the bottle, actually.
Yep, see if it holds up. I mean, it's been in this bottle for a couple of years now, so
it's been in the vault in the dark. So
hopefully it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And just for my own personal love, I have an unopened one of these at my house.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I have a Chapter 3 in my whiskey vault unopened.
I was sad when I emptied.
There's a very good chance that you'll drink it at my funeral. That's a very good chance.
Wow. All right, so the proof of this is 122.6.
Yes.
And to remind everybody, it was a 9-year Basil Hayden, 63 corn, 27 rye, 10% malted barley, a 9-year Knob Creek, 77 corn, 13 rye, 10% malted barley, and 11-year Booker's, same mash bill as the Knob Creek, and 12-year Baker's, same mash bill.
Yes.
Whiskey Advocate gave this a 93. The price at the time it came out was $125 in 2019.
Which was a $25 uptick from the first 2.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And on the secondary, you can pick this up for an average of $391.
Good luck. I've seen it for a lot higher than that.
Yeah, and I have tasting notes from Breaking Bourbon.
Yes. All right, here we go.
All right, here we go. Is it as good as we remember?
So what I remember saying about this is there's traditional bourbon notes, and this bourbon hit them all perfectly. There's nothing crazy about this flavor profile.
Right.
It's very traditional, as it should be, being the 4 whiskeys that it was based on, which are 4 of the greatest examples of American bourbon in history. All right, so
on the nose, what I get immediately is cherry vanilla. Like a cherry vanilla phosphate. I don't know the 1950s, but you know what I mean?
Interesting. Now, my first thing was brown sugar.
Okay.
You can smell a little bit of the proof.
It's so fruity to me.
Yes, the nose is crazy. I use creme brulee a lot. I'm smelling like a little burnt vanilla. Could be the char from the barrel.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. The brown sugar I can smell too, definitely. Oak.
I
Oak is big.
still haven't got cherry yet. So interesting.
Really? That's not part of the sweet component that you can smell?
I'm almost getting more of a strawberry.
Oh. Tasting it.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my good Lord.
It's so good.
I taste like peppermint in there, too.
It reminds me of the William LaRue Weller that we drank last year. It's got that same type of deliciousness to it. Caramel, aged oak. And you're saying peppermint now. I'm
getting a cherry licorice peppermint. Like Twizzlers and peppermint at the same time. Twizzlers and peppermint, strawberry rock.
Oh my God, this is so good. It is so good.
It still is good. And it sizzles on the tongue.
It really has a wonderful mouthfeel. It's heavy in your mouth. It's heavy in the glass. It's got great viscosity to it.
I got some orange just then.
Absolutely. There's definitely a little bit of orange in this, but my God, big and bold flavors. Like,
so bold.
Like they come at you in layers, waves of flavor.
And it hits you right away. Whew.
I would love to go back and listen to when we first tasted this a couple years ago.
Maybe we should have done that before we did this. I didn't want to bias ourselves.
I didn't want either. I didn't either. But just as good, I remember. Still one of the best whiskeys I've ever had in my life. And I've sampled probably close to 500 by now.
Man, I want to drink this whole thing right now.
I know. I'm setting it aside because I don't want to. It's all we have right now.
It is. And I think at the very end, we can go back and compare them all.
Yeah.
And just real quickly.
Absolutely. So,
So, tasting notes from Breaking Bourbon. What they said at the time. On the nose, elegant classic bourbon scents. Is what we said. Aged leather oak, toasted brown sugar, creme brulee, and a faint floral undertone. That's interesting. On the palate, rye spice comes rushing in first, then caramel, honey, black pepper, vanilla, and aged oak. On the finish, incredibly long, hot, and peppery with bold rye spice, black pepper, and a hint of sweetness mixed in with transitions to leather, oak, and vanilla, highlighting the ages without coming across as overly aged. Yeah, very good. They didn't exactly say cherry, but I get cherry on Knob Creek all the time. Now I'm remembering, on our first time that we tasted this, we said that we could taste each and every component in it.
Right.
Because we had them recently.
So much. Yeah. And there was elements of it. Amazingly good whiskey.
And this is why we say they should make this one an annual release.
Yeah.
Name it something else.
But change a little bit of the formula.
Yeah.
I think he said he tried 47 different versions of this.
It had a lot of versions. Yeah.
Grab the second best version. Oh, I'm just kidding. Don't say you did, but use this. Just
right. Say you did a different one, but just use the same one.
Just for the record, no offense to Freddie, he can drink this every day if he wants. He probably has Little Book Chapter 3s laying around his house.
He's got little flasks just sitting around.
Just like he has it like in a water cooler.
He's got one in his pocket at all times.
Right. All right. So this is Chapter 4, The Lessons Honored. Freddie pays homage to his father, Fred Doe, and the lessons he passed down about bourbon, honesty, and integrity, with 3 whiskeys chosen because of a connection to those lessons. The base of Chapter 4 is a Kentucky straight bourbon made with brown rice, the first project Freddie handled on his own. Next is a high rye, an ode to the rare 2017 award-winning limited edition 13-year-old spirit known as Booker's Rye, one of the first whiskeys Freddie and his father tasted together. And for the last whiskey in the blend, Fred actually helped pick after Freddie presented his father samples of different ages. So this was a project with his father that kind of honored his father. So that was a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
And what are the specs on this one, Scott?
The proof is 122.8. The age of mash bills. So the 3 components are the 4-year Kentucky Straight Brown Rice Bourbon, which I believe is Basil Hayden Toast, 63% corn, 27% brown rice, 10% malted barley. The 7-year Kentucky Bourbon Whiskey, probably the same Knob Creek Baker's Bourbon, 77 corn, 13 rye, 10% malted barley.
Probably laughing at you trying to figure stuff out.
I know.
Freddie, it's like none of them are right, Scott.
Well,
you have no idea what you're getting.
Right. I did say that it was speculation, and not just me, the people on the internet.
Right. On the, you know, they are.
I know. And the high rye, the 8-year Kentucky Straight Booker's Rye, and that is speculated to be about 70% rye, 20 corn, 10 malted barley. It earned a whiskey average rating of 94. The price at the time was $125, the same as the 3 in 2020. And on the secondary, you can get that for about $294. We did open this and drank it at some point and then closed it and put it in the vault.
I don't remember drinking it.
Well, somebody drank it.
I don't remember drinking it.
I don't either, actually.
I feel like I let someone try it because they weren't going to be around when we had it. Yeah, I feel like I was drunk when I did that, or at least I had.
Yeah, I don't remember the circumstances.
But I'm saying I have no recollection of drinking this.
Not as sweet as 3. For sure.
On the nose we're talking about, right?
Yeah, on the nose, yeah.
Maybe like a little Irishness to it, like an apple, like a green apple I get
from. Interesting. I'm getting like a hay-ish, like farm barn, a clean barn.
Yeah. I'm using brown sugar again, like I feel dumb, but I'm getting like a brown sugar apple is what I'm getting. That's all I'm getting. Again, a little ethanol saying how hot it is.
Yeah. The ethanol is kind of getting in the way, and it's so interesting. So covering and swirling, I'm getting the apples, but to me, it's more of a red apple.
Oh, it's interesting.
Oh, you taste it?
It's got an interesting finish. I can't put my finger on what I'm tasting there. Delicious palate. The apple's still there, but I'm getting like some baking spices, like cinnamon.
Yeah, I'm getting like graham cracker.
Okay, I'm not getting that, but
could be cinnamon graham cracker.
Okay, I'm getting cinnamon, and I'm getting a little bit of oak,
dry cinnamon, right?
Yeah, like
the powder,
not the candy, a spice. Yeah,
the actual spice. Okay, there's some sweetness there. What is that? Honey?
Oh, yeah. I can see honey for sure. There's like a spicy pepper on the end.
Oh, yeah.
And still, the oak is there, too. Not off-putting, but it definitely tastes some oak.
Yeah, this is a bit more floral herbaceous, whereas the 3 was pretty
sweeter.
Sweet.
Yeah. There's candy notes from 3 that aren't present on 4, but 4 is a completely different whiskey, and it's rye-based, and so it's going to be less sweet than a bourbon.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, right. It makes total sense. It's quite good.
It's quite good.
It's different, but so good. And we have plenty of this, so if we drink this one, we'll be fine.
Yeah, we have almost a whole bottle of this, so this will get us pretty effed up.
Ooh, like maybe a hint of like tobacco leather, sort of. Pretty light though.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
I'm getting a little orange on this one too.
Okay.
As it finishes and goes down my throat.
Yeah.
It's a little more drying than a 3, I think, but it's completely fine.
The finish is drying, but that's not a bad thing all the time.
Did you drop water in?
No, I'll do that real quick.
8:01 p.m.
It made the finish a lot more like little menthol.
Right. It brought out a little bit of a medicinal quality to it.
I don't think it helped it all that much. It didn't hurt it. I think if you put this on a globe, it would take an interesting journey for you, for sure.
I'm getting a little bit more caramel, though.
Yeah.
Just got that. Not initially, though.
Right.
It took me a second sip to get that.
All right, so what are the tasting notes?
All right, so also from Breaking Bourbon, on the nose, grassy, herbal, and a bit spicy with apple, light oak, and brown sugar.
Oh, there.
On the palate, heavy cinnamon and baking spices, old oak, dark brown sugar with an intense ramp up in heat that creates an explosion in your mouth.
I did not get that hot for me. I thought it was very smooth,
No,
actually.
it didn't get that hot. On the finish, lingering cinnamon, spicy red pepper, black pepper, damp oak, and a mild dryness. Yeah.
All right. We did pretty well on these. We're doing pretty well.
Yeah,
so
good.
we're just going to take a short break and clean the glasses and come back.
That was quicker than I thought. No, I'm sad.
We can keep drinking after we get off.
Okay.
And we have to save room for our conversation with Freddie.
That's true.
Freddie's already tasted these. He already knows all this.
Right. I'm going to name this little book times 6, even though we have 5 whiskeys, because the 6th little book is Freddie himself.
All right, we'll be right back with 5 and 6, and then we have much more to do after that.
All right, be right back. Okay, we are back. 3 and 4 were delicious. We were saying off air that 3 was sort of more in Ed's wheelhouse and 4 is more of mine, even though I love 3.
3 is iconic.
Yeah. So what we're doing next is Little Book Chapter 5, and Ed has the description.
Little Book Chapter 5, The Invitation, contains 4 liquid streams, 3 of which were distilled under Freddie's watchful eye in the hopes of creating a final blend that's both expansive and complex. The base is a 2-year-old bourbon that challenges the perceptions of what a lower-age whiskey can be, which made The Invitation one of the more difficult chapters to perfect, as harmonizing such varied liquids and ages requires a delicate balancing of flavors and an immense amount of patience.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Chapter 5 is Freddie's way of inviting Little Book drinkers into different aspects of the whiskey space. Regardless of whether they've been along for the ride since Chapter 1 or are just tasting Little Book for the first time.
Proof is 116.8, so
a lightweight. Yeah. A lightweight for a Little Book.
2 was 118. Yeah, that was the lowest, but this is now the lowest. The age and mash bill. So there's 4 components. The 3-year Kentucky Straight malted rye, which could be what is now the Basil Hayden malted rye, which we tasted on their tour.
Yes.
It's 100% malted rye. And then the 2-year, 5-year, and 15-year Kentucky Straight bourbons.
Okay.
Most likely, again, Knob Creek, Booker's
Creek,
Bakery.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
77, 13, and 10.
We're not going to terrorize Freddie into telling us the mash bills.
No, we don't need
nor
it at all.
shall he.
No.
But we have nothing else but speculation to go by.
Yeah. Whiskey Advocate did not give this a rating, oddly enough. The price was $125 in 2021, and on the secondary, you can get it for an average of $260.
Oh, it's a practical bargain. All right.
Number 5. Here we go. So we also were saying that the 3 and 4 we had tasted, but we have not tasted the 5 or the 6.
I don't remember tasting the 4. I'm not claiming I did.
We said you were drunk, and you're like, let's open it.
It's possible.
One night after
It's possible.
heavy podcast drinking.
After people sitting around going, oh, what's that, the 4? I could see myself being sucked into it. But
Ooh, red apple skins.
yeah, I get apple in the nose
Immediately.
right away. It's a much more muted nose than the first 2.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Yeah, it's lighter. That was just hit me really fast.
I'm getting a little cinnamon.
Yes. Cinnamon's there. It's oaky.
I'm getting oak. I'm already getting these pepper spices. A little bit spicy. There is some ethanol.
Yeah. Let's taste it.
I just did. Oh my gosh. It's delicious, man.
It is delicious.
It's delicious. It's sweet, definitely traditional caramel. I'm getting some like a little bit of leather, and there's some sweetness of it. There's a sugary sweetness.
Yeah.
Is it a vanilla sweet? Is it like a brown sugar? I can't put my finger on it yet.
Ooh, it's almost a bubblegum sweetness. And I'm also getting mint. So maybe that put me in the gum space.
I was just about to say I got menthol on the finish.
Yeah, especially as it's gone.
And this is bourbon, but a lot of rye too, right?
Well, so we don't know the proportions, but 1/4 of the whiskey's whiskeys in it is 100% malted rye.
Oh, malted rye, right?
Yeah.
That a malted, that's, I jumped up in the mic real close.
Oh my God, how do you do
I'm
that?
so excited. This is a delicious whiskey.
I'm getting candy. In comparison to the 4, which was so floral and herbaceous,
Yes.
it's a move back toward 3.
Yeah, it's so funny. The first half of the sip is very, very sweet, vanilla, caramely. Then it finishes peppery,
It does. Minty.
menthol,
Yeah.
a little leather, a little bit of tobacco.
Yeah.
Boom, it switches halfway through, which is really stunning to me. The contrast between the front of the sip and the finish. It's
Yeah, so
amazing.
the front of the sip is more like 3, and the back of the sip is more like 4.
Wow. What's the tasty notes?
These are all from Breaking Bourbon.
Okay, I like to be consistent.
Yeah. On the nose, cinnamon and baking spices with hints of vanilla, toasted caramel, charred oak, dried leather, and kneaded bread dough. I didn't get the bread dough, but I can see the other ones.
yeah.
On the palate, hot cinnamon candy, yes. Rye spice, yes. Tobacco leaf, yes. Peppercorn, and more baking spices with an overlay of tannic wet oak.
Wow. Yeah, we're right there.
In the finish, the tannic oak from the palate flares, but then quickly dissipates, replaced with earthy flavors of leather, cigar box, and green peppercorn with a nice lingering spicy heat. No mint.
No mint, but you know,
Right. I taste it, though.
Put a lot of herbaceous notes in there. But you see how he said it quickly switches?
Yes.
That's something we said too.
And I'm honestly not sure what green peppercorn is, the difference between that and black peppercorn or,
Yeah.
or
I don't-
Szechuan
I don't-
peppercorns. Or,
yeah.
We need to educate ourselves on that because
Do we, or is it just peppercorn? I mean,
I guess there
no.
must be
There's
a difference.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference. But I think we do a pretty good job considering we just tasted 3 and we hit a lot of the same notes that some other person who does this full time.
I'm definitely getting bubblegum now on the end of
Now
it.
I have to taste it again because I don't know what you're talking about with bubblegum.
Like just the regular Bazooka Joe bubblegum that we grew up with as kids. Just that sweetness that is just bubblegum
On the finish or on the
finish.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can kind of see that now.
You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
Yes. Like just sugar.
Yeah, like pink.
Yeah.
It tastes like pink.
Tastes like pink. My
Not the
God.
singer. Not the singer.
My God. As if you would know.
No. We don't travel in the same circles, Ed.
No, we don't.
This was terrific. Again, another winner, 3 in a row, which really makes me upset that we couldn't get our hands on the 7 and 8. But maybe someday.
But the bottom line is we were kind of treating this episode as a retrospect of what Freddie was doing.
Yeah.
And we wanted to have something current, so we do have the infinite. I mean, we will taste 7 and 8.
at some point.
Yeah, maybe Freddie will send us 7 and 8.
Oh,
I mean,
maybe.
we'll be best friends after Tuesday. So
And 9 is coming out too.
right,
soon.
so we'll
Yeah.
talk about that. But anyway,
Yes. The next one,
I need to clean my palate a little bit. My chest is still burning from
you're getting verklempt. Do you need to do a topic? Okay, I'll give you a topic.
Okay.
The Holy Roman Empire was neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. Discuss. I'm Linda Richman.
and Freddie's just canceled our meeting.
Talk amongst yourself. I'll give you a topic. The chickpea is neither a chick nor a pea. Discuss.
It's like butter, Freddie.
From Kentucky. I don't know if he gets to New York.
He's seen Saturday Night Live.
I'm just teasing.
Although he's younger than us, so he might not know who Linda Richman is.
Right, we're like 20 years older than him.
Yeah, we are.
Oh,
Little book.
smelling.
I know.
I'm already smelling.
And you're
sick.
working ahead.
I can't help it. Okay.
Okay. Little Book, Chapter 6.
Little Book Chapter 6, To the Finish, is a blend of 5 different finish whiskeys created using different wood staves and barreling techniques. The inspiration came from combining 2 of Freddie's passions, cooking and whiskey. Using the smoke and flavor of hardwoods, he brought together timeless tools from the culinary trade into American whiskey, and the result is a taste that's bigger than its individual parts. You see, for the No family, the kitchen has always been a home away from the distillery, and so Freddie figuratively poured the ideals and traditions behind these treasured family meals into his whiskey work at the distillery. Then he literally poured them into Little Book Chapter 6.
The proof is 117.45, so a little higher than 5.
Okay.
The age of mash bill, so 5-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon.
Okay.
77, 13, and 10.
Yep.
And then 4-year finished American single malt whiskeys.
What?
Yes. Finished in applewood smoke barrels,
Okay.
hickory smoke barrels,
Okay.
and then 2 with staves. Cherrywood staves and maplewood staves.
Oh, Freddie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing so much right now.
This is going to be amazing. Whiskey Advocate also did not rate this one, but the price was $125 in 2022, and you can get it on the secondary for an average of $243.
Oh, pretty good.
Yeah, so they're all kind of coming down, which makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, Little Book Chapter 6. Gonna nose. Completely different. And it should be.
Yeah, with that grouping, yeah.
I'm getting like a smoke, like wood fire.
Like a barbecue.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Not overly smoky or something. Like you're in the woods and you smell a fire far away. That's how subtle it is.
Yes.
There's sweet notes too.
I'm getting like some baking spices.
Vanilla's huge here.
Cinnamon. Smoke is really hard to get away from.
Yeah, the cinnamon, baking spices for sure. Yeah, the wood. I mean, it makes so much sense. Applewood, hickory,
are you
cherry
getting
wood,
apple?
maple wood.
I feel like I'm getting a little apple, but I don't know if that's because I know the apple wood's in there.
I mean, a little, yeah. I could say that that's apple.
Okay.
It did immediately hit me at that, but once I'm looking at the barrels.
I got to taste it. I can only tolerate smellings for so long.
All right, tasting.
What is that on the finish? I hate to jump to the finish, but wow.
All right.
Wow.
This is complex, I'm going to tell you. Ugh.
Wow.
Got to do the whole cycle through.
Yeah, I'm going to need a second on this one. This is so complex.
It tastes like you roasted an apple core and then ate it. So it's sweet, a little smoky, and you taste the wood char.
Wood char over this and smoke all over this.
Yeah.
I'm getting very savory notes, like bacon.
Ooh.
I'm getting like a salty,
Fatty kind of thing.
Yeah, a little saline. It almost tastes like a fat rendered, cocktail.
Savory.
Again, I'm getting brown sugar, which is just my favorite note today, I guess.
I mean, there's brown sugar in all of these.
Yeah.
I feel like that's sort of a signature of these blends. I mean, it literally tastes to me like I ate an apple in the presence of a fire.
Getting like a breadiness, like a crusty bread. I remember one time I roasted bread over a fire, and then we had this like bacon fat thing that we rendered down on top of it with like peppers and onions.
Jeez. Yeah, so a lot of these tasting notes that we're coming up with, to me, are very reminiscent of single malts in general.
Yeah.
And it is not a surprise that 4/5 of this is American single malt.
Putting a little bit water in it.
Yeah, me too.
Ooh. Made it very, very, again, to me, menthol on the finish. I know no one else is going to get that but me, but that's what I'm getting today. This is weird. I get like a peanut, maybe?
Peanut is, that's a hallmark of Jim Beam stuff too,
Yeah.
so that's not surprising. I'm not quite getting that, but maybe a peanut brittle, like a sweet peanut?
No, I mean, maybe it's a different nut, but I'm getting some type of a nuttiness. Maybe it's a walnut. I don't know.
Oh, it's really good with the water in it.
The water tapered down some of the heat and opened up a lot more sweetness, but do you get any menthol or mint on this in the finish? Or am I out here on my own?
I'm not getting mint like I got really strong on the 5.
I hate you so much. Just kidding.
There is a flavor here that reminds me of scotches that I've had.
I've never tasted anything quite like this.
No. I'm not saying the entire thing.
No,
I'm just saying there's a piece of it.
No, I agree.
That reminds me of that.
I was even talking about what you were talking about.
I hate you so much.
No, I'm like just trying to decipher what I'm tasting here.
Right.
I'm going to actually pour a little bit more.
Okay. Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure this out because if you listen to our Lost Lantern one, we really fell in love with the Texas peated single malt that was finished in the añejo barrels.
Yeah.
And to me, it has a similar quality to that. It could just be the finishing and the malted barley together.
Yeah, it makes sense. We haven't done a lot of single malts finished in hickory smoke barrels and apple smoke.
No.
So yeah, it could be just that Freddie accomplished exactly what he probably wanted to, was to create a very unique blend.
This is so unique.
Finishing.
This is the most unique one so far.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because as I said, 3 is my favorite all time, but it's a very traditional bourbon.
Mm-hmm. Just does everything perfectly.
Just a perfect bourbon.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 was very creative too. I'm not going to lie.
It was. All right, let's do the tasting notes. Again, from Breaking Bourbon. On the nose, apple pie, allspice, light cinnamon stick, kettle corn, and toasted almonds. On the palate, rich and velvety with notes of pie crust, baking spices, brown sugar, maple, bacon, and caramel chews. On the finish, medium length with lingering warm spices, light smoke, oak, and green apple Jolly Rancher candies.
Oh, Jolly Rancher candies.
Okay.
Oh, I love green apple Jolly Rancher. I love that. It was my favorite one.
Not as sweet as that, but yes.
Yeah, it's really good. I don't even think those tasties note even hit half of what I'm tasting.
Yeah, the apple, though, is all over this.
It's so good.
Really nice.
This is where we would be tasting 7-8 if I could have gotten it.
Yes. But we'll just go through it because we're going through all of them, so might as well.
Little Book Chapter 7, in retrospect, is a blend of 7 different whiskeys. Oh, this is going to make me sad because I'm not... All right, Scott, fine, I'll read it. It's a blend of 7 different whiskeys, one that has been included from each of the previous chapters, plus a record-setting 7th. The name is a nod to the past, but it also sets the course for what's next, not only for Little Book, but for Freddie's continued journey as the 8th generation master distiller of Fred B. No Distillery. As he said when creating Chapter 7, hopefully, over the course of this journey, we've intrigued somebody enough to try something different. Well, Freddie, we've tried something different 3 or 4 times today already.
Yeah. So to be clear, what this means is that it's not a bit of the blended, finished whiskeys of 1 through 6. It's whiskeys that were included in 1 through 6 in the blend. So the proof is 118.1. And the age and mash bills are 2 Kentucky Straight Ryes, a 4-year and a 10-year. Could be the Knob Creek Rye, which is 55 rye, 35 corn, 10% malted barley. A 5-year American single malt finished in applewood smoke barrels that we just tasted.
Right.
And then 4 Kentucky Straight bourbons, a 4-year, a 9-year, a 17-year, and an 18-year. Those being likely the 77, 13, and 10 variety that we have tasted in several of these.
Somewhere online quotes is probably the best little book I've had since the line's inception. Well, now I know what I'm doing next week.
Damn it.
God damn it.
Yeah, coming up, a whiskey short of 7, 8, and 9.
That's right. Tune in as Ed's credit card bill comes in next month.
Yeah, tune in as Ed defaults on all his loans. All right. Notes of apricot, passion fruit, apple, malt, caramel, rye spice, dry oak, clove, cigar box, and a touch of smoke. Whiskey Advocate rating, I think the highest of all of them, 95.
But screw them for not rating the other two. How dare they? How dare they?
The price of this in 2023 was $150.
Yeah.
So an uptick there. And on the secondary, you can now get it for an average of $227.
Which is like not that bad.
No.
But I'm not going to pay. I'm going to find it. Someone's got this on the store shelf. I'm just going to start driving around liquor stores till I find it. I know I could call them, but it's not as much fun.
All right, so then let's do Little Book Chapter 8.
Right.
And then we can do the Infinite.
This one sounds like it's up your alley, Scott.
Yes.
Because you're always been,
absolutely
always been rye curious.
This is really the one, like I said to Ed, if we can get 7 or 8, I would rather get 8. Yeah.
And now I know why.
Yes.
Knowing that rye has its roots extending back more than 2 centuries to the beginning of American whiskey, you could say it's all been done before. However, the Little Book Chapter 8, The Path Not Taken, Freddie pushed the limits of what rye can do by looking across America's oldest whiskey frontier and blending ryes of different ages, chars, and mash bills in order to create a complex, refined, and differentiated profile. And I'm criticizing you, Scott, for making me say differentiated this late in the evening. The story of rye has been told countless ways, but never like this.
To be fair, that was on their website, so I didn't do anything. I think this is the most complex thing he'd ever done. And I don't know what 9 is and what 9's coming out, but the proof is 118.2. The mash bill, 3 4-year Kentucky Straight Ryes, 4, 5, and 11-year, possibly the Jim Beam Rye. 2, what they call 5-year Pennsylvania family style Kentucky Straight Ryes of chars of 1 and 4. So I don't know what those are. A 7-year Kentucky Straight Malted Rye.
Okay, which we
possibly the Basil Hayden Malted Rye that we tasted before. And an 18-year Kentucky Straight High Rye Bourbon. Possibly the Old Grandad mash bill of 63 corn, 27 rye, and 10 malted barley.
Interesting.
The notes are rye bread, butterscotch, pretzel dough, caramel, barrel char, cinnamon, citrus, brown sugar, and apricot. Whiskey Advocate rating was 91. The price was $160 last year, 2024. And on the secondary, you can get it for an average of $208.
Okay, so now we're going to taste the last one we have tonight, which is a shift in what Freddie's been doing, because it's called the Infinite Edition 1. Little Book is extending its lineup by blending rich family history with a fresh, creative vision. This exclusive limited release features a unique blend of whiskeys distilled by 3 generations of No family master distillers, Booker No, Fred No, and Freddie No, plus 1 joint family component. The result is a perfectly balanced profile that tells a compelling story of family and craftsmanship. For this initial batch, only 70% of the blend was bottled. The remaining 30% was put in tanks to prevent further aging and will form the foundation of a series of annual releases that will each incorporate an additional component, creating an ever-evolving, infinite whiskey blend. So this is kind of a take on the Infinity Bottle.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. The proof of this is 119.3. The age and mash, so the Freddie component, if you will, is a 7-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon. The Fred component is a 14-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon. The Booker component is a 20-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon. And the shared component is an 8-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon whiskey. All are likely to be 77 corn, 13 rye, 10% malted barley, which would make this all of that mash bill. The price of this was $200. On the secondary, you can get it for like $283. And this was gifted to us by a fan. Jason from Maryland.
The super fan, we call him.
Thank you so much.
Right.
It was above and beyond. I mean, it's just extraordinary that you sent us this. We're so happy. Thank you.
When he heard that we would taste it on an episode featuring Freddie, he was ecstatic that he could be part of the history, if you will.
Yeah.
And we're going to have him on doing something.
Yeah. If we do the 7, 8, 9, we'll have him on.
Right.
Yeah.
And we might even taste this with him on air too, because he gave it to us, and I'm not sure if he's tried it, to be honest.
Right. Yes, he'll definitely have it.
No doubt. So I'm excited about this because, just having a 20-year component in here is interesting. And the fact that all three had some hand in this,
It's cool.
I'm a sucker for nostalgia and history. And history and bourbon in this country go hand in hand.
Yeah. It's a huge story behind bourbon. It's not only marketing, it's also real. Like, we were in Kentucky, we saw the history. Every tour that we went on, everybody was talking about the history. You walk through downtown Louisville, you see the facades of the buildings. They're painted over now, but it was just a great experience overall.
And even when you get to a giant distillery like Jim Beam, it's folksy. They're very down-to-earth people. They have an amazing facility. They're churning out so much juice an hour. But yet, when you're on the tour, you get a very personal feel. And of course, we were lucky enough to go to the supper club dinner and get to meet Fred and Freddie.
Yeah.
And be part of that experience, which was a wonderful one to be to, because there was so much distiller selection going on there.
Yeah.
And a great menu.
Yeah, they said that they want people to feel like they're family when they're there. And that's absolutely the feeling you get.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to meet Freddie. It was great to meet Freddie, but I was a little nervous meeting Fred. Not going to lie.
Well, right.
Fred was the nicest guy. He was so down to earth. He stood for so many photos of so many people.
Yeah. They really seem to love it.
Yeah. And if you're ever in Kentucky near Clearmont and you can make it to the supper club dinner,
definitely worth it.
It's worth every dollar to get in there and be part of that. And we literally scheduled our whole trip to Kentucky around that dinner.
We did. We actually changed the week.
Yeah, just to make it for that dinner. And I'll be dead honest, I'll be transparent. It was to meet Freddie because I've been wanting to do a Little Book episode for over 3 years.
Yeah.
So the Infinite was tremendous opportunity right now for us to try something that's cutting edge of what Freddie's trying to do. And I want to do a little bit of introspective because I guarantee you nobody in America this year is tasting 3, 4, 5, and 6 together. You know what I mean?
And the Infinite.
So we're going to start nosing it and then we'll go from there.
Ooh.
So
I'm going to love this.
I got cocoa.
Oh, cocoa.
Dark baking chocolate, maybe some cinnamon.
This smells like Knob Creek to me.
Well, you would know it because for those who don't know, Scott's first foray into bourbon was Knob Creek. Mine was Woodford Reserve, but I quickly fell in love with Basil Hayden and graduated into Booker's and Baker's, which I liked a little bit better than Knob Creek in the beginning.
Basil Hayden was definitely something that we drank in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it was low proof, right?
Basil Hayden is the best tasting 80 proof bourbon in America. But we're used to higher proof stuff now. That's all. I still think that the dark rye is one of the hidden gems out there. It's so drinkable.
Yeah. Also like the malted rye. It's really good.
I haven't experienced it that much. I've only had it one time.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is I'm getting oak, char, caramel, vanilla, burnt sugar, brown sugar.
Okay.
A little bit of cherry. These are the tasting notes that I get on Knob Creek.
I definitely get vanilla. A little bit of char, like a burnt creme brulee is always there.
Yeah. I'll taste it.
It's going to take a couple. It's dense.
So it doesn't really taste like Knob Creek, though. The nose, to me, was very Knob Creek, but I'm getting anise on this.
I can't talk for a minute.
Ooh. It's fruity.
Yeah, it tastes almost, now this is crazy, but we just did an episode. So the fruit cocktail, single barrel rye from Peerless. Very similar components of that, which was a rye.
Right. Had so much fruit
So
in
much
layers.
fruit, like a fruit cocktail, literally, like you dumped out the canned fruit cocktail when you were a kid. This isn't like that.
And you're picking out the pieces of fruit and eating them, all the cherries, and then all the peaches, and then all the pears. Good Lord, this is good.
God, this is such a good whiskey. My God. People often ask me, Ed, is a whiskey worth $200? No.
Not normally, no.
Not normally, no. Normally $150 and under is where I live. When you go to $200, it's special. We got the old Carter. We had an old Carter on here that was over $200. We thought was worth it. This is extraordinary.
I'm just sitting back and enjoying every aspect of this one. It reminds me a little bit of 3. In that, in its flavor, it's not as punchy as 3 was.
It's bold.
Yeah, it's hotter.
Yeah, so one thing I've noticed about some of the ones tonight that's different than other whiskeys is what hits you on the nose goes straight through the palate and arrives at the finish.
It lasts a long time.
So like if you're getting cinnamon on the nose, you taste it on the palate and you taste a different version of it on the finish. And that's what I'm noticing about this. The finish is peppery.
Yeah, maybe some of the ethanol that I think I'm tasting, the hotness is pepper.
And I think that it has a little bit of astringency on the finish, like a little bit of saline again, like I got from the smoke one.
Oh, yeah. A little drying. It is lingering, though.
It's not nearly as drying as the...
was it 4? Yeah. No, yeah. It'll be fun to revisit after we do the interview, but...
Yeah, we have all of them out here. So, water helps. Put water on.
Oh, yeah. Put water on because it does taste a little hotter to me. And that's pretty impressive for the 5th whiskey of the night.
I think it tastes hotter because it's the 5th whiskey of the night. I just think we're a little bit beat down on our mucous membranes here. If you think about it, when they came out, nobody was sitting here doing little book after little book after little book, you know?
I mean, I'm getting more anise on it, and it is sweeter.
Anise on the finish is when it comes to me.
Yeah.
And I'm getting that now.
Yep. Whew. Water only makes it better.
Mm-hmm. This would take a fantastic journey on a globe.
Yeah.
Put 2 ounces in a globe, sit down, and just take about 20 minutes to drink it. Now, I don't know if this is how they're coming out of the barrel or if he's adding some spring water to this.
I feel like 119.3. Yeah, it probably is what came out of the barrel.
You're probably right. It's pretty specific.
Yeah. But all of them were going to be different because there's the 7-year, the 8-year, the 14, and the 20.
Yeah.
Wow.
Are you getting any mint? I mean, here we are at mint again. Are you getting any mint on the finish at all?
You know.
Or is that the anise I'm tasting? Is it just blurring in my taste buds?
So maybe it's you putting it in my head, but I'm smelling a little sweet mint. But it could be just the power of suggestion.
It's delicious. Let's get the tasty notes from Breaking Bourbon.
Okay. On the nose, cinnamon, dry, dark chocolate, underlying oak with a dense caramel sweetness, dark fruit, and a hint of smoke.
I got chocolate and cinnamon.
I mean, that dark fruit, it just screams cherry to me.
Yep, you said it. You said it.
Hints of smoke. That's interesting.
Try that again. Hold on.
On the palate, bold and punchy, with cinnamon and other baking spices, rich caramel, graham cracker, brown sugar, aged oak, vanilla custard, and that familiar Jim Beam nutty undertone.
All right.
Which I actually don't taste a whole lot of.
I don't get the peanuts that I was getting on the other one. Mm-mm. Oh, I said it again. I don't get the peanuts that I was getting on the other one.
I'm just going to let that go. On the finish,
enunciation.
On the finish, long waves of brown sugar and caramel coincide with receding baking spices and punchy heat with more, punchy heat for sure. With more nuttiness, providing a lasting contrast to the tapering spice. No anise.
Let's go look for nuts.
Okay.
Did you get peanuts anywhere?
I mean, maybe like a dry peanut shell
I'm getting on the finish
kind
now.
of thing.
I'm getting on the finish. And we talk about this all the time. Like, are we tasting it because they said it? Yes. Because I went and looked for it.
Yeah.
And
sometimes you find it.
Sometimes we don't. Find it. Sometimes I don't.
No.
Not dry roasted. These are just raw peanuts out of the shell. It's definitely there. So.
It would be interesting if we could talk to the guy who did the Breaking Bourbon tasting notes and say, we taste anise on this. Go search for it. Do you see?
Yeah, right.
Do you taste it?
Right.
And maybe he would.
This poor guy's sitting in a room by himself, you know. I wonder if he does that. I wonder if he has friends come like, what are you tasting this? Like, I feel like if I had that job, like, Scott, come over here and tell me what you taste.
Yeah, help me with this.
So this was a dream come true episode for me. I wish we had 7 and 8, but you know what? If we had done 7 and 8, then I don't think we'd have appreciated the Infinite as much as we did because your palate can only sustain so much of an assault. Mm-hmm. And we had 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and now the Infinite. That's 5 high proof whiskeys, and I'm still tasting the Infinite very well. But it does set up a 7, 8, and 9 episode for us when it comes out.
Yeah.
And maybe Freddie wants to be a part of that somehow. Like, I don't know, send us some whiskey. It's possible. And
no pressure.
He's a good guy. He's got it laying around.
He's got flask in his pocket. We already talked about this. So we are going to take a break here. And the music will stop. And then the Freddie No interview will start. And then after it ends, we'll come back ranking our favorites of these that we've tasted and final thoughts.
Oh, there he is.
Freddie.
All right, there we go.
Nice hat.
Kentucky life, man.
Technologically unsavvy today, so that probably fits in most people's.
Only one of us on this call is tech savvy, and it's not me.
Yeah, I'm in IT. Ed is not.
My computer, it don't like my headphones, and it did not like Zoom. We use Teams a lot in work. I haven't used Zoom in a while. I don't know if it needs to wake up or something. I don't.
Yeah, they get jealous of each other.
That's what I was going to say. Is like, it into submission or something.
Yeah.
So let me tell you real quick what we did this weekend. We're doing a little bit of a retrospective of what you did for a little book. So we actually tasted 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the infinite. We literally couldn't find 7 and 8 in our area. So we're hoping to still find some of 7 and 8, and then when 9 comes out, do it part 2.
I was going to say, start looking right now. It's left. It is leaving.
It's already out.
It's leaving Claremont. That's what I was saying. It's leaving Claremont.
Oh, okay. It's being distributed.
Here, your distributor and your liquor store. That's what I would say. That's where it is.
All right.
Yeah, so we're looking to get maybe 7, 8, 9 and do as part 2.
Cool.
We had tasted the 2 between us. We never tasted the 1. We just missed the 1 that came out back in 17.
Oh, man.
Our goal is to have tasted all of them. Chapter 3, I think it's my favorite bourbon expression I've ever had.
Yeah,
and it was on Saturday again.
Yep.
When I tasted it 3 years after the first time I tasted it. And it was really that bottle that started my journey for doing this episode. Scott will tell you, I wanted to do this episode 3 years ago. I thought we were going to have to talk about number 3. Well, it took a few more years after that.
A little bit, yeah.
But here we are, and it was great to meet you. I don't know if you remember, you met us in November. I know you meet a lot of people, but if we went to the supper club dinner, and it was such a great night.
Say that we got an event tonight. We're doing more about smoke food, so it's like a smoking oak is what we call it. So it's a similar concept. So yeah,
Our friend Jeff was with us, had such a good time that he the next morning didn't remember eating his dessert. We're like, no, you ate it and you liked it. You ate it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good night, yeah.
As long as he didn't cause y'all no problems.
No.
Sir, that's not too bad.
He's a pretty happy drunk.
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. So, Scott, where do you want to start with?
Let's start at the beginning. Chapter 1. This was all your idea in the beginning to do experimentation, and you found out that you had a talent for it, or at least an aptitude. And with all the whiskeys that you guys must have, how do you even go about starting something like this?
It's kind of funny. I guess really at the beginning, you start with, you have an idea. Some could say they're crazy ideas. You may not share them, but I always tell the story of we went into these ideation meetings, as they were calling them at the time. And, the whole premise of kind of setting the stage was that there was no such thing as a bad idea. But I heard a lot of bad ideas, in my opinion, flowing. At some point, my dad slammed a Coke can. He got so frustrated at one of these kind of off-the-wall ideas. But as a young adult, probably 19 or 20, I started reading a book called American Still Life by Paul Packelt. And it's basically a history of my family. And really, the first I really dove into learning a lot about the family's history and the ties to whiskey at detail. And so then I got to reading in a book about cooking grains afterwards and how there's optimal temperatures for each grain. And I thought, well, hell, we make whiskey, we throw them all together, essentially, right? Make a mash, a recipe, cook, and go on. And now I understand why, due to conversion of starch to sugar. But at that time, I didn't, right? So I was really a stupid question. I was like, well, hell, why wouldn't we just cook each of these individually to their proper temperature, and then after that make the whiskey and blend them together and put them in the barrel, right, to where you got the best flavor of the corn, the best flavor of the rye? What happened if you blended them? Would it taste like Jim Beam? I asked my dad about it. He kind of hey, don't blend whiskey. That's dumb. Don't bring that up. But I would, again, at that time, blended whiskey was really a cuss word. You talk about early 2000s. If you were to say, I've got a blended whiskey, somebody would be like, what? What are you talking about?
Definitely.
Real quick, Freddie, we did an episode on Legion.
Yeah.
And that was a big focal point, quoting your dad from an interview about how he had to shift his mind from blending because blending used to be such a bad term when he was your age. And to see your dad embrace any type of blended whiskey was really fun in a way, to see him actually growing that late in his career to still be open to something like Legion.
He was just more worried about the use of the word, really, literally. It was he always used the word mingling. That was his thing, mingling. I'm like, it's a good thesaurus exercise for the actual term of what the hell we're doing around here. But okay, I get it. It's got a bad connotation. But so, they come up in an ideation meeting, some of these ideas. I thought, well, hell, that idea I got ain't much crazier than some of these other ones I've heard. So I just said, hey, what if we did a blend? And they're like, well, how would you want to do it? And in between that, I had done a stint in R&D and made a 4-year-old blend. And it was just tastes like corn whiskey, to be honest, because you got a lot of amount of corn, right? The recipe of ours is very high, over 75%. And then you get into the only rye whiskey we had was our standard rye. And it was just kind of bumping over the legal rye. It was a Kentucky bourbon style rye is kind of what I would call it, right? So a lot of corn flavor was dominating, and it was very young, about 80 proof, 100 proof, whatever it was. So this idea, I thought, is how do we use some maybe older whiskey, tones down the grain notes and gets more into that sweet spot of aging. And everybody thought the idea was pretty good. They wanted to see what it was about. I don't know if they really hung their hat that the project was going to be anything, to be honest with you. whiskey other than just a little exercise to give Freddie something to do on the side. Yeah, because I was actually a bottling supervisor when I was a part of this conversation. So way out of my wheelhouse, to be honest. But yeah, I had the idea and went off and got to blending and noticed that you could kind of tone down some of the what I call corniness, for no pun intended, right? But really overpowering of the unique flavors that 100% malt whiskey could offer, that rye whiskey at upper age could offer. So it was more about kind of finding how do these things work together and what's the best version of that. And so for that original little book, as you saw, 13-year-old corn whiskey, upper age, high rye, your Booker's rye there, and then the uniqueness of that 100% malt, which was an experiment at 6 years old. And to me, I just think having those elements worked out well to deliver what my vision of that was, which was using these grains and kind of highlighting their uniqueness a little bit more individually and bringing it into the finished product. Then I thought it was unique to tell that story, right? And so then, as you see, it becomes chapter 2. If you look on the bottle, chapter 1 did not have a chapter. It was almost kind of like could have been a one-off, to be honest. There was no like set in stone that we were going to keep doing this.
Brady, I have a question. Before we go on to chapter 2, how did you get the green light from like your dad, first of all, and other people? Like, how did you convince them, hey, you just sit down the front lawn and refuse to come in until he let you do it?
No, I mean, I'll be honest, I use the same tactics today on anyone. You know, it works well. Slide them a glass of the whiskey, what you're talking about, right? Ironically, Dad was an easy sell, right? I mean, he likes good whiskey. You know, another thing within that, right, is the name of that came up. One of the packaging engineers was actually reading my granddad's book where it said that he called me Little Book. And he said, that ought to be the name of it. And then given that I wanted to offer it at cask strength so that people would be able to taste it how you want, it shouldn't be really predetermined by me, especially in this notion that I was going with. So it all fell together. And ironically, I didn't tell my grandmother that I was doing this. I had the opportunity to sit with her a lot of afternoons in her upper age and would take bottles to her of Booker's when we'd name the batches. And I was excited to take this to her, right, to show that the nickname they called me. She still wrote that on all my Christmas, birthday, Easter cards, Little Book. So really, she kind of kept the notion of it alive because in reality, legally, it's like, hey, we don't want to call this because of your nickname. Does your grandmother call you this? I'm like, well, hell yeah. Here, look at this. And I showed all the letters, essentially said Little Book on them. So solidified that it was more than that. So I never got to share it with her. But it's kind of funny because the CEO came to her wake and afterwards stopped by the house and he's like, what have you been up to? Anything, out of the ordinary? And so I slid that glass across that table and told him what it was. And then if you fast forward, he said, what can we do to get more of this? I said, we need a distillery where I can make some mistakes and they don't cost a lot of money on a large scale. Mm-hmm. And so it really, the sharing of that story enabled the Fred B. No Distillery, where we've been doing a lot of research that, I'll be honest, has accelerated the quality of Jim Beam. You've seen it on Jim Beam Black, specifically in an age statement. Those are my favorite projects because they just reiterate what our vision is, right, of delivering a high quality product for people to enjoy the world over. The idea of the first Little Book kind of laid the groundwork for a lot of the future of the innovation we've done, the innovation we'll continue to do through that research, but also the opportunity to improve the quality of my great-great-grandfather's brand, Jim Beam, Booker's as well. So Little Book became a launch pad for so many things. And like I said, it could have literally been just a one-time curiosity in how does bourbon show up as a blend of whiskeys versus a mash bill of grains.
So chapter 2 happened when you went to Canada.
Yes. As we were working on chapter 1, the kind of quote-unquote branding and storytelling side of it, right? I was in Canada learning about vodka, to be 100% honest with you. It's not to get into deep rabbit holes about distillation, but the proof points of which you distill at can equate to a lot of differentiation in flavor. How you get to that proof point can either diminish or deliver flavor. And so with vodka, it's kind of odorless, flavorless, colorless by definition. But there's a few vodkas that I would say have different mouthfeels, perceptions that come across, in even aroma. Our Canadian producer in Alberta, near Banff, actually, has a very good vodka, in my opinion. And we were up there to see whiskey as well that they wanted to take us through. But it was more about the distillation of vodka learning that brought us here. It was negative 10 degrees, and I was standing in a warehouse tasting 36-year-old Canadian whiskey, and it was amazing. I'm like, can I get a sample of that in Kentucky? Because I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't the fact that I was was like freezing. And this whiskey was helping me to kind of warm back up from the inside out. But just this beautiful floral, fruity note. And so then I kind of learned, again, getting into rabbit holes about their fermentation, started to learn how they were developing that flavor. And when I got back home, utilizing those whiskeys was more about expanding people's horizon to kind of like what could come on this journey if we're going to talk about blending an American whiskey. Going back to the story side of it, I wanted it to be my real story, right? And that's a lot of it's what you'll see throughout each chapter is there's either a personal touch to the whiskeys or the story, the name of the chapter, this very personal story tying to that whiskey. And so I thought this was important, not only from the whiskey side, but tell that story of education, right? That you don't have to just focus on bourbon to be a good bourbon distiller. There's other things, can add to your repertoire of elements. And I think that was very fitting whiskey to come in the second notion because, you talk about, wow, blending, and then holy shit, it's Canadian whiskey on top of it, right? So it worked out very well, accelerated my whiskey learning, worked very closely with the Japanese blending team. And then there's a lot of world whiskeys and world spirits in Suntory Global Spirits, and just utilizing all of that knowledge. At times it can be daunting, like how do we get to that? And kudos to the company for kind of spurring those opportunities, delivering them. And the Canadian whiskey was the first stop. It was very close to home. It was like, hey, I'd love to learn about vodka, right? So it's like so weird how I got to that chapter 2.
I have to admit that when I saw that you had the maybe 40-year-old Canadian mixed into your chapter 2, that's when I knew that you had a free hand. You know what I mean? Like you were going off the floor plan, if you will,
Yeah. And it showed that the company wasn't, to your point, this was the first question you asked, like, this was all you, right? I'm like, yeah, who the hell else would, A, come up with that thought process, and B, who would allow it, right? If it wasn't.
I figured you were rolling in the back door at night when your dad was asleep or something, But real quick, like I've been a fan of your brand forever. Of course, it's iconic. In fact, Knob Creek was the first whiskey that Scott was introduced to in the real whiskey world. Once you get above, Jack Daniels or whatever you drink when you were a kid, to shots of JMO. So, and what I noticed is, your grandfather Booker, he started the first innovation with the small batch collection of Knob Creek, Basil Hayden Bakers, and of course the Bookers out. And then everybody started to follow suit. But the one thing that they weren't really competing in was like the one-offs, like here's something for you today, but it's not going to be here next year. I mean, Bookers were all different. I understand the releases. I've had them all similar, but all different. Mm-hmm. But this was like something that now, when I get up in the morning, I always go, I wonder what the next little book's going to be. It's something we know there's going to be something drastically different next year. You don't have to go through each chapter because that would take forever, but how do you figure what the next one's going to be? Does the theme cause you to focus on how you blend?
Sometimes it's the other way around, like to be honest, the next one, chapter 10 that we've been working on, there was a theme. So we're looking for whiskeys that live up to this expectation. Chapter 2, as we just kind of mentioned, was the opposite, right? It was like we had the whiskeys. Now let's tell a story from the learning of these things, right? And this journey. As you mentioned, chapter 3, it was what I would have said at the beginning. I'm like, I won't ever do that. That's silly. That's Granddad's whiskeys. He had those for a reason to be separate. The story behind it, we were working on a lot of things at Claremont. My son was about to be born. So I was kind of given the green light of staying at home and very little travel. And so there's just a lot of things to me. And when you say the road home, that means a lot more than those whiskeys, which still is, if you look at it in kind of an Easter egg form of the story, right? I stepped way outside the box twice in a row. You can almost argue that the road home was like, that's my first blend of bourbon, which was what everybody probably would have expected. If you said Freddie No would release a product, what would it be? A bourbon. So I think there's just multiple meanings for the name, similar to 4 with Lessons Honored, right? Those two definitely were more about living up to a theme. And then the invitation flips back, which is more about kind of like how do you find whiskeys that live up to the expectation of an invitation? So it kind of flips back and forth. If it's telling a story of my growth, a lot of it's got to come from me. I work with a lot of people on the brand team on story development, content development. They do a lot of that stuff from the stories that I tell and kind of what I'm thinking. If you think about all the components, you all just went through the whiskeys, but think about all the components, and they were literally hand selected by me and at least one other person, and a lot of times a couple of others, from a standpoint of what do you think of this liquid to fulfill that seat in that blend? That's a lot of tasting, a lot of personal development as whiskey connoisseurs that has occurred through that process. So it's a pretty cool journey, to be honest.
Yeah, American single malt's really big right now because it just got its rules. And the American single malts were in your chapter 6 were finished in different like kinds of wood. Mm-hmm. Those are separate products that maybe you put out someday, because I know you have Claremont Steep.
But I was going to say the base of that is Claremont Steep, and so we took that single malt and we finished it in various woods staves, but also cherry wood smoke. So the smoke was imparted into the barrel as well.
So you did that purposely for chapter 6?
Well, for research, it's called To the Finish. And a lot of people thought, oh, this is the end. It was more about the connotation of like.
Right, yeah. It was a pun. And I'm getting it, yeah.
The finishing of barrels, the finish itself, the flavor it leaves behind.
Right.
I always say the nose and the finish. If you're blending and those two things don't pop out, then you've not finished your job. I don't want you to have to go back 3-4 times to find enjoyment. It's more about 3 to 4 or 5 times to make sure you didn't miss anything, right? That's kind of what I'm looking for. The same on the back. I don't want it to overpower you or kind of cut your palate down or cut down on that experience that started with a good aroma. So To the Finish to me is like focus on the finish, but also it is a finish. A lot of double meanings in the chapters of Little Book across each one.
Did you take us through your approach and process of the infinite? That is different in the line.
That's correct. So I was looking for terms that, what's an infinite book, but that don't really exist, I don't think, right? They all got to come to some type of end. But at least while I'm around, this one will keep going for sure, because I can't break that notion of infinite.
Right.
But through research of barrels for Little Book and various projects, we found some barrels that were made when my granddad would have been kind of at the last times he was going into the distillery and really checking on things, tasting the distillate and shooting the shit, for lack of a better term, as well. And so we reserved those. Coincidentally, they were Knob Creek barrels, so it wasn't going to be a Booker's release. There's no water ever added to the barrel, and it comes off distillation at 125. Knob Creek comes off a little bit higher than that at 130, so then you're adding water in the barrel, so that kind of knocked it off of Booker's right away. We probably would have landed on a Knob Creek project, but I didn't think that it would, to be honest, do it justice to the story, right? The one-off idea. So the premise here is each year we're saving back 30% of the blend. So what you all tasted was kind of like the bookend of the front end, the literal blend of the base liquid. So Fred, my dad, obviously still loves tasting whiskey. We kind of worked together, selected some 14-year-old Knob Creek barrels, kind of notion to be his first dump. Obviously, Granddaddy, we had 20-year-old whiskey there. And then 8-year-old and 7-year-old, and I chose brown rice, which is the first innovation that I did as a distiller, which is also one of the first innovations that my dad did, working with Jerry Dalton. Kind of after my granddad stepped away, they all worked together very well. And so then we bottled 70% of the tank, saved 30%, and that's the rule each year. So now we've finalized the blend. The dump will probably happen in the coming month or so, I would say, maybe 2 months. We'll dump the liquids for this year. The only one I'm giving away is that there is still some of that granddad's liquid aging up. 21-year-old it will be. The other one's lip sealed for now. But we've also added a couple of other liquids to represent myself and Fred, and that goes on top. We'll bottle that up, save 30% of that. So you need to save a little bit of that infinite one, because if you wanted that taste back, I think that one will be where you can really put some skills to test, right? Because there's 30% each year of the similar blend. And then for at least the next 3 years, there's one constant liquid on top of that. But for me, I still want to take people on a journey to kind of show the flexibility of how we make whiskey. But yeah, that's kind of the premise of that.
And when can we expect to see edition 2?
This fall, yeah. So the chapter for Little Book will be coming pretty soon. And then in the fall, we'll be doing the Infinite.
Do you want to talk briefly about what you did with 9, since that's coming out right now? Chapter 9.
When will this go on? Sorry.
This will be June 6th.
Oh, man.
You don't want to reveal?
I'm supposed to be under lock key until June 8th.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, I just saw boxes leaving the shipping department. That's what I was kind of getting to you guys, is that it's starting to flood.
Just asking, do you have any 7 or 8 marketing samples out there left from back then?
I save a lab sample bottle of every one.
I don't want to take your personal bottle, Fred.
I mean, I could share a sip. I would say we got some sitting around we could pull out maybe. And what is it, 7 and 8? Is that
Yeah, we don't have 7 and 8, and of course we have to get the 9 too when it comes out.
Right, you also mentioned 1 earlier.
Oh, we never had 1. No,
Yeah, never had one. Yeah,
1, 7, 8. All right, let me write that down. I'll forget if I don't write it down.
Yeah, 1, 7, 8. Thank you, and then we'll go looking for 9 because it should be out soon.
Well, I can add a little sample. I was going to see if I had one sitting up here, but I haven't put one up here yet. That's over there.
Yeah, if you want to send us 9 too, that'd be great.
Do that.
And then when we do this part 2 to your episode, we'll do 7, 8, and 9, and that won't come out until July. So you'll be very good by then.
Perfect. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So which was your favorite?
You're going to be very disappointed because the way I look at projects is very differently than how you all think. You all want me to say my favorite taste.
Yeah.
That'd be like my favorite kid, right? It was like, I can't do that.
Exactly. Everyone's got a favorite kid, though, Freddie. Don't lie.
That's not true. I'll tell you, there's certain times of the day that you may want to spend time with one kid.
Right, hour to hour.
Or day a week, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
We can confidently say Scott and I were the favorites in our family. We were.
I don't have a favorite. I can promise you, I do not have a favorite. But I do have a favorite project.
Okay.
I always say Jim Beam Pineapple or Jim Beam Black, just because of the relationships that were built internally and also what occurred to get to the end result. Those are the things that matter to me, as I've developed. So now for Little Book, it's probably a little bit tougher for me, but I would have to say 1 or 7 if you just really look at like the magnitude, because as I mentioned, right, you talk about what chapter 1 was able to enable for me, and then chapter 7 was looking back on those first 6 and working with, at that time when I first picked up the product development team and developing kind of our mission statement and our way of working moving forward. So to me, those two, not to mention the flavor of both of them, are very good. I mean, I guess it is chapter 1, but it wasn't called that, right? So it's like that's what makes it even more unique.
Freddie, what's really amazing is to see how your process evolved from what was essentially chapter 1 to where we are now in less than 10 years. You basically in your garage with a couple of barrels to this whole philosophy, a new distillery, and a team on innovation. I mean, it's something to be proud of. And it must feel good to really have a sense of impact on your family's legacy that's personal to you. That's a hell of a thing. Good for you, man.
Well, I mean, it's really one of the first questions that I asked myself when I started, which is, you're the 8th generation of your family to do to the public's face the same exact thing, right? Like master distiller. How do you show the world Freddie No and not great-great-grandson of Jim Beam, 8th generation? Because that's one of the things my granddad said is be yourself, right? And it's like, I needed to find that wave, and I'm just excited I had the platform to be able to tell that story broadly, right? Maybe not as broadly as many would have liked, right, with the bottle amounts and things like that, but broadly from the standpoint of other people are listening and at some point, can put together the story of my journey through whiskey. Literally, the brand name started when I was an infant. The idea started when I was like 19 or 20. And then to your point, in my late 20s as a bottling supervisor. But I really do think like reflecting on your journey can help you to kind of really see where's the next steps in that journey. You could step back in a place if you don't know where you came from. I've been very lucky to be able to have the opportunity to be able to focus and taken that opportunity and had that journey to reflect as well.
Well, you mentioned you're the 8th generation and you have children. Are they old enough to know what you do and interested in what you do? Is there a 9th generation in there?
Yeah. My son's 6. My daughter's 16. She's interested a lot. She asks questions from time to time. One recently, she said, what can I do to become the best distiller ever? And it kind of shocked me. Number one, 16-year-olds don't need to be thinking about whiskey. I don't think that's a good thing.
Right.
So I very much raised both of my kids of, if you want to be the best of something, I'll do everything I can to enable that as long as you're putting the effort. My response, luckily I could quickly generate a witty comeback. I said, well, that's never going to happen, honey. So I think it kind of shocked her that I said she couldn't do that. And then I quickly followed it by saying, you're following me. And so it kind of made hopefully a little bit of a friendly competition in the future. But I tell her all the time, and I said, I'm very proud of the young lady you're becoming, and your dedication to soccer and school, to me, will equate to being a good human. And no matter what you choose to do, if you're a good human, you're doing what I need you to do. So there's 9th generation Beam descendants. Will they be distillers? Well, I'll let them figure that out at the right time, right? They got to find their way as the ninth person to do something in their family. And I would never want to put pressure or any of that on them. But
Are you your father's only son, Freddie?
I am. Yeah.
Oh, only child. Okay.
I took a little more pressure off, right? I got 2 kids. There's some pressure.
Right.
My dad's also the only son, only child, both of us.
Oh.
So
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that you both had aptitude and desire.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Have you ever been to New Jersey?
I've passed through New Jersey. I don't know that I've
Yeah,
ever.
that's what most people do.
We live right outside of Philly, so have you ever?
That's what I was going to say. I went to Philly from the New York office with my buddy from Philly, and I went back.
Right.
So I've been through there. My boss lives there, but never been there.
Oh.
Oh, all right. Well, if you ever get to Philly or New York, hit us up.
I'm planning a trip. I skateboard a little bit on the side. I'm sorry. Skateboarders would be like, you're a poser. I don't skate enough. And I would admit that I skateboard. It doesn't mean I'm a skateboarder, right? Like I use
Right.
I like Bam Margera, who grew up in that area, and there's a skate park there, FDR, where he's like, if it wasn't for FDR, I would have never been Bam Margera.
Right.
I just think it'd be cool as shit to skate at that iconic spot, and I've never been able to, so we're trying to coincide a little bit of a
Yeah, that's near Westchester, I think.
yeah, exactly, absolutely, yeah.
That's about 50 minutes from us, 50.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
But
So
you're not going to want to talk to us if you're skating with Bam Margera, so you have a good
well,
time.
no, I'm going to coincide a work trip, so I'm going to maybe come up on like a Thursday, do a couple of things, maybe at a Phillies game, and then do an event.
All right. If you're a friend of the podcast, anytime you're in the area, if we can help you, if you have any products that you want to feature, feel free to hit us up.
I still say you all got to be bigger advocates for the roast pork. You got to drop the damn cheesesteak. I think I said it to y'all when you're down here.
Well,
you all keep that damn roast pork to yourselves, and you make the cheesesteak be this, consumer or travelers.
Yeah.
We have
pork is the sandwich in Philly. I'm just saying, hard to believe.
Like underground, and it's really like an Italian roast pork sandwich with like long hots.
Absolutely.
Some people put broccoli rabe, some put roasted red peppers. There's lots of variations of it.
Horseradish.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Both of those sandwiches had to exist about the same time.
Right.
What the hell is wrong with you all for just not? Y'all could have had a lot more tourist attraction if you would have went with the roast pork.
It's what people take out of Philly.
Oh, you're blaming the tourists.
No, I'm saying like Subway does Philly style cheesesteak. It's not our fault.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
If you eat cheesesteaks in Philly, it's the rolls that make it. We have amazing rolls, but roast pork is delicious.
Yeah, it is the best kept secret. You're right.
I've had subpar cheesesteaks. I'll go on quote. I've never had a subpar roast pork, and I ate one 3 hours after it was given to me the last time I had it.
I mean, our favorite tailgate is when our friend Gabe does his roast pork sandwiches. It's number one of the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need a good recipe for how to roast the pork because I've tried it at home and it just don't hit the same. I need to season.
I'll get you the recipe.
Yeah, we'll ask you.
I will beat Gabe up until he gives us the recipe.
How about this? You say, all right, Freddie's sending a sample of chapter 1, 7, 8, and 9.
Right.
Yeah, say that right. So you don't even have to let us be the middleman. Just send it directly to this email. And you can, I promise, I will not share it. I will just make it. That's all I want.
It is extraordinary.
I love it.
I need it. I need it bad.
We will get you that.
We'll generate a trade then. That's a good trade. I like it.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on. It's
anytime.
been a little bit of a dream come true.
Appreciate it. You guys made it easy.
It was great to meet you in Kentucky, and hopefully we'll get down there again sometime. And if we do, we'll let you know we're coming.
Yeah, we'll definitely come to one of those dinners because that was fantastic.
Brings me a couple of roast porks and bring them with.
Yeah.
That will happen.
Y'all have a good one.
All right, Freddie.
So, take care, Freddie. Thanks so much.
Man. Great interview. Great to talk to that guy. He's so down to earth.
So down to earth. And once again, it's funny because he's 35. Like we're like 20 years older than him. But he's living in a world that we only dream of.
I know. And
like my dad was a teacher. I became a teacher.
That's right.
Just like your dad. He was a pilot. You said, fuck that. I'm going to go into computers.
Right. He was a pilot and he played football and I played on computers and was an English major.
Right.
Same. Samesies. We're practically twins, Ed.
Anyway, and the thing that I like about Freddie the most is his attachment to family and tradition. That's what this country's really formed on. I feel like sometimes we get away from that.
We do.
But it's like, helping each other up and supporting each other. And nothing seems as bad after a nice dram of one of the little book whiskeys.
Yeah, I feel like we're made to accentuate and focus on our differences when we have so many more similarities.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So we wouldn't wanted to come up with like a general rating of what we thought of all these.
Yeah, just put them in order of how we like them.
For shits and giggles,
Yeah.
right?
So Ed, you want to go first?
Yeah, so of course 3 is my favorite. And I was curious. I was like, maybe something will knock it off.
Right.
And I'll be honest, there was tremendous whiskeys tonight. But
Yeah.
when I went back at the end and I tasted them all again.
Yeah, we decided to spare you the entire process.
Yeah. We decided not to make you sit through that.
This episode's long enough.
We went back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
The Infinite is the next most complex one.
Okay.
And then here's a weird one. I think 6 is the next most complex one, but I'm choosing 5. 5 has candy notes, and the flavor profile is in my wheelhouse.
All right.
So I'm going 3, Infinite, 5, 6, and then the 4.
And then 4.
Which is just not my particular flavor profile, but probably was going to rank higher for you.
Okay. So what I did was I also 3. Because it just has the punchiness that I didn't get on any of the others.
It's a home run.
Yeah. So my second was also the Infinite because this was the one that tasted most like 3.
Right. I'm with you. Yeah,
So that's why I picked it.
I gotcha.
My third one was 4.
Yep.
I mean, I really like the herbaceous notes on that. It's just fascinating to me. It's complex.
Wow, so
it's
you put
delicious.
4 number 3.
I'm putting 4 number 3.
That's so Scott.
That's so Scott, right? And then my 4th whiskey, I chose number 6, which makes 5 the 5th one, but I struggled with 5 because I almost put 5 third.
I know, it's what I did.
But 6 is the most unique thing that I've tasted from Jim Beam in general. 6?
Yeah,
the American single malt one. And then 5 was just sort of the odd man out. It's not bad at all. All of these have been tremendous.
Right.
But this is the order that I ranked them. So 3, Infinite, 4, 6, 5. And what was yours again?
3, Infinite, 5, 6, 4.
Okay. We had the last 3 opposite.
Right, which I think Freddie would like because he wants to appeal to different flavor profiles and palates. Yeah. And if you listen to our Whiskey Madness tournament, you know that Scott and me often pick opposite.
Often do.
But the menu tonight was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, if I went to a bar and they just poured me the 4, which was my last choice tonight, I would be like, oh my God, this is so complex and delicious.
Yes.
But I want to thank Freddie No for his passion project. I want to thank you all for listening tonight. And this has been a tremendous journey for us.
Thanks to Jason as well.
Jason.
For giving us the little book, Infinite.
Our super fan from Maryland. You are amazing. We thank Freddie for coming on and the rest of the Jim Beam family for supporting us and for sharing this all over their social media. So for the Whiskey Tangent Podcast, thanks so much for listening. I'm Ed.
I'm Scott.
Cheers, everybody.
Later.